Hi, guys. Welcome to the workshop, Turning Struggle to Strength. I am your host, Kip Schubert. I am an author, a speaker, and a high school counselor and boys soccer coach for over 3 decades. Just wrote a new book called Struggle to Strength. And I just want to share with you, just jump right into it, how we can take the things that we face, because we all are going to face struggles, no matter whether we like it or not. We either are in the middle of one, we're coming out of one, or one's about to get us. And so, how do we take those struggles, turn them into strengths, and then use them in our school community, in our classroom, on the athletic field, as administrator, to build relationships and unlock the unlimited potential inside staff and students to really achieve great things and the dreams that they want to achieve. The first thing that I've learned through my own struggles was a big lesson in humility. And I think that's where we have to start if we're going to see our struggles and be able to turn them to strengths. And about 10 years ago, in the early parts of 2014, I found myself an alcoholic, homeless. I was without my car. I had lost that. Really, the only thing I had left was a teaching certificate, a teaching job, and co-parental rights to my 6-year-old daughter. And in March of 2014, I had missed 47 days of school up to that point. And that tells you kind of how bad things were for me. I would just call in and not come in for the entire week and be on a bender. It's just one of those things where a lot of things that I share in my book, but led me to eventually at 46 years old to be a 24-hour, 7 days a week drinker. And I was hanging on by a thread. My health was failing. Just everything was falling apart around me. And so in March 2014, I agreed to go to rehab. And in rehab, I thought that I would get there and just learn to drink and party like a regular guy. Um, in Alcoholics Anonymous, they call it drink like a gentleman. And I didn't have any idea that I really had a problem. Yet all these things were going on around me. I'd lost just about everything. Yet I still felt like the problem was outside of me, and it was what other people were doing to me and the things that were happening to me. But I got into rehab, and again, just was going to have a 30-day reprieve, a free place to sleep, and 3 meals a day. And I would learn some things and go back out, and everything would be fine, right? But I get into rehab, and the first weekend, I get a call from my counselor. Her name was Christy Hamner, and saved my life. And but when I entered Christy's door, I thought that I had done everything so well that I was going to get to go home early. I was one of those go big, go home guys, and so I wanted to do rehab and recovery better than anybody. But when I got there and opened her door, I could tell by the look on her face that something was extremely wrong. And she said, "Kip, sit down. I need to tell you something." And so she sits me down and says, "Your family didn't want to tell you this before you came in because they thought you wouldn't come." And they were right. I wouldn't have. But she said, "You have lost all parental rights to your 6-year-old daughter, Camden. You cannot see her, contact her, any way, shape, or form. All your parental rights and custodial rights have been revoked." And for me, folks, that was my rock bottom. And I had tried to commit suicide a few times before and failed. And this time I knew how to do it and was going to just leave and go commit suicide. But as I walked to my room to get my things, there was a chapel, and something just compelled me to go in. And so I went in the door and sit down in the front row. And I just began to cry. And I cried so hard, like I had never cried in 46 years of my life. And I think every ounce of guilt and resentment and anger and shame, all those things, pain just came pouring out of me. And I remember looking up at the cross on the wall and just saying, "Help." And almost instantly, I felt this warm sensation shoot through my body, and I was able to stand up. And I heard an audible voice, and it could have been, just me, the universe. To me, it was God speaking to me and just said, "You are the greatest miracle in the world. We've got work to do." And instantly, it hit me like that. That, Kip, this life isn't just about you. It's not about everything that has happened to you and what people have done to you. It's about other people. It's about how you're affecting them, how my alcoholism, how my drinking, how my not being present with my kids and family, that's on you. And for the first time, I became humbled, and that was my rock bottom. And that was the last uh, moment that I'd ever thought about drinking, and it's the first moment in my recovery. And I've been sober and clean ever since. And it's that humility, and I had to be brought to my knees. So as educators, we don't have to be brought to our knees by becoming an alcoholic and losing our home and hitting rock bottom. But you need to have a reflection point or space where you're able to stop and say, this isn't just about me. This is about what I do for other people. And that's important, that you have that humility, that you understand that what we do isn't just about us, it's about others. And so that was kind of the key to me beginning to open my eyes to the fact that maybe my struggles could become a strength. And two things played into that as I began my recovery, and that was the act of acceptance. I call it, in my book, it's a chapter, it's called It Is What It Is. And simply just being able to accept situations and people and circumstances for how they are, and learning to control what I can control. I can control my attitude, my efforts, and how I react. And so those two things, acceptance and controlling what I can control, were two things that I leaned on heavily as I began to recover and understand that all the things that I had gone through and all the things that I would go through, and I still go through them today, can become a source of strength for not just for me to become a better husband, a father, man, but for me to become a better educator, a better coach, a better counselor, a better administrator. And so again, that's kind of the first thing I want you to try to maybe reflect in your own life of your struggles and the things that you're going through, and to think and just reflect on the fact that those things that you're going through aren't just about you. The bad things that people have done to you, it's not just what's happening to you, but how can you use that as a power, as a strength to impact people? Because our lives are much more important than just, and there's things way bigger than just ourselves. The second thing, and this one isn't in my book, and again, my book's called Struggle to Strength. You can check it out on Amazon, and I'll give you some things at the end that you can find it with too. But controlling what we can control, right? There's a kid in my class this past year, and his name was DJ, and he was a sixth grader, and he wore this bomber jacket that was zipped up all the way to the top every single day. He was like the nerdy version of Tom Cruise in Top Gun. And so as I was doing state testing with these kids, they were able to bring snacks in to state testing. And so DJ brings in this loaf of bread that's like huge, right? It was like $1.50 French bread loaf on sale at Walmart. It was a huge old loaf of bread. And the Wi-Fi wasn't quite working that morning. I was stressed already. And he brings this bread in with this big goofy smile. And, I was like, hey, look what I got. And I lit into him because things were outside of my control that were getting to me. And I made a choice, a conscious choice. And I lit into DJ and said, go put that in your locker, that it has no place in a testing environment. That's ridiculous. And you can see those words just crushed him. And so DJ walks out, he puts that in his locker, he comes back in, and he did really well on the test. But while they were testing and while we were, walking around to make sure they're on task and they're not clicking through too fast and all those things, all I could think about was, why did you do that? That situation, that moment could be a moment that DJ remembers for the rest of his life about education, about Mr. Schubert. You had a chance to impact him in a positive way, yet you did it in a negative way because it was all about Kip. And so at the end of the day, DJ was in my mentor group, and I called DJ out into the hallway outside my office and just said, DJ, I'm sorry, dude. Will you forgive me for acting that way this morning? That snack was unique, and we could have used it to model sharing and just broke bread for everybody because we had enough bread to feed more than 5,000, even though we didn't have the fishes. Um, and his big smile returned to his face, and he goes, "Sure, Mr. Shu, it's okay, you know." And I said, "Tomorrow bring in whatever snack you want. We're all good." So the next day, he brings in this Himalayan sea salt shaker that's about this big, and comes in, sits down. I'm thinking, why is he bringing in Himalayan sea salt? And I said, DJ, you are the salt of the earth, because I made a conscious effort. I made a choice to make an impact on that kid in a positive way in that moment. And salt of the earth. And he takes the salt shaker out and he begins to do this into his hand. And then he takes the salt in his hand and he sprinkles it around his desk. And he goes, "Yes, I am, Mr. Shu." And it just, so again, it's just one of those things where our choices in the moment and making sure that things just aren't about us when things are going bad, when there's a struggle, even if it's as small as a Wi-Fi on a testing day, that we remember that it's way bigger than just us. That every moment, every interaction with a staff member, with a student, could be the moment that they remember about you for the rest of their lives. And yeah, that's a lot of pressure. But to me, that's a lot of opportunity and a lot of purpose and a lot of wonder in what we do. It makes being an educator so meaningful to me when we think about it like that. Our choices and perspective are the other thing that really play a big part in being able to see strength in our struggles and turning our struggles into strength. And so we get to choose how we see things that are going on around us or happening to us. We can see them in a negative light as a struggle. We can see them in a positive light as a strength. And it's all about developing that warrior's mindset, that perspective. And I learned a lot about that from my wife, Cindy. And we had been together after I got into recovery. We got together. We had known each other since the sixth grade, and she's just the most amazing woman and exactly what I needed at that time in my life. And we were in the process of getting married. And um, long story short, for this workshop, but Cindy is a poster child for the yearly checkups for everything that you have. And she went and got her yearly physical. Her blood protein levels were high. We waited another month and got them retested, and they were even higher. And the doctor gave us a number to call to see a hematologist. So, I didn't even know what that word meant. I thought it was like a doctor of frogs, but I learned it's a blood doctor. And Cindy calls, and on the other end of the line, they say St. Francis Hospital Oncology, cancer. And within 2 weeks, she had a port put in her body, and she was taking chemo for what they call Waldenstrom's microbilemia. It's a very rare form of blood cancer. Only 1% of people who have non-Hodgkin's types of lymphomas, I think, have this cancer. And, we go from living life and living big and to my wife to be could die. And I remember when we found out that news, I went to the bathroom and just cried. And I came back out, and my wife took me by the hands, and she looked at me and she said, "Kip, I will live and I will not die." And I was just like, again, it's not about you, Kip. Your wife is the one with this incurable, by the way, blood cancer. And she's telling you that she will live and she will not die. She made a choice in a situation that was happening to her. And she's done this every day since through her chemo. She's in remission now and has been for about 5 years. And she chooses to live. She gets to. She doesn't have to go through it. She gets to go through it. And she's used it as a source of strength to empower other people who have cancers, all different types of cancer. And recently this summer, we found out that she's also battling breast cancer. She's had 2 now. One's in remission, and the other breast cancer they've caught early, but we're in the process now of determining whether she has a lumpectomy or a mastectomy, and that's really weighing on her. But just to watch her navigate through that struggle and continue to say, "I will live and I will not die. I get to. I don't have to." really makes me think about the little moments that we have as educators every single day, those little struggles with students, those struggles with that stuck in the rut staff member, or whoever it may be, that there is an opportunity in that struggle for a strength, especially when we choose to say, I get to make a difference here, not I have to. Or instead of looking at it in a negative way and having it become about us because we're so worried about how it's impacting us. My wife could have gone into a black hole and I wouldn't have blamed her a bit, but she chose to have the right perspective, a warrior's mindset. And she chose each day, and she still chooses each day to live and to not die. And I just think that's such a powerful lesson for me to remember that, again, life is not about me. It's about what I do for others. And I have to choose to have the right perspective, that warrior's mindset, every single day, because our stories, folks, are our power. And whether we like it or not, we are in the people business. We educate, we teach, we mentor, we model, we counsel, we parent in a lot of ways. We are so many different things to kids, to staff members, so many different things. But our story, you've got to know that it's not about you. All the things going on around you, all the things that have happened to you, the struggles that you've been in and come through, and the struggle that you're in now, they're not just about you. There's purpose in it if you choose to see it and have the right mindset. Because if you don't quit, you win. And our stories are our power. And so if you'll reflect upon your story, your struggles, and you begin to use those struggles to serve others, that is when you find your strength. And it's so simple. For me, being an alcoholic for 25 years, doing so much devastation to my kids and to the people around me who love me, for me, I have to give back to other people for it to make a difference, for it to make sense to me, for it to mean something. If not, I did all that for nothing. I hurt so many people for no reason. But even in our little struggles, no matter what you're facing, no matter what you've been in, there's a story there. And if you understand that it's about other people and you become humble enough to seek it out and you change your perspective and you choose to find the good in it instead of the bad, you're going to find the strength. And it's so important that those lessons that we teach each day in not just our classrooms or what you're doing in your class that day, but in everything that we do in that school community. Those stories, those sources of strength are how we begin to build life-changing relationships. The relationships, the bonding, the connections, they're in your story when you share it. Even as simple as me taking DJ out in the hall and saying, I need forgiveness, buddy. Me taking that moment to show him about grace, to teach him about forgiveness, and for me to get that back from him was impactful for both of us. That humility that I was trying to model to him. I mean, there's so many opportunities during each day that we have to share parts of our story in small ways and big ways that can impact others. And those are the things, that's the glue, that's the cement that brings together relationships. And so coming up into the school year, building relationships is number one. And building culture in your school requires relationships. Think about the one thing in your school community, whether it's your classroom, in your school, if you're an administrator or wherever you are, but in your role, but one thing that you respect, that you hold as a priority, something that can drive student engagement, student achievement, something that can make a positive impact on that. What do you respect? And then I want you to think about how you can reinforce it, how you can recognize it, and how you can reward it. Always looking for what they're doing right instead of looking for what they're doing wrong. And as you do that, you'll begin to form relationships, whether it's in holding academic pep rallies or all kinds of contests amongst your student body or staff to promote teamwork and to build relationships. I mean, there's so many different things. Check out Jostens Renaissance program. There's so many things in there for for building school culture and climate and relationships. Because if we want the results that we're all after, if we want the achievement that we all seek, if we want our staff members to dream big and to live big, if we want our students to dream so big they call us crazy, if you get my book, you've got to check out that chapter. It's a good one. But you're going to have to build those relationships. And by respecting, reinforcing, recognizing, and rewarding things that are important to you, cements those relationships and deepens those bonds. And that is what drives your results. So again, I just want to end with this. Take a moment before you start back to school and reflect on your story, your life, your struggles. And maybe you're going through a struggle right now. And first off, realize that it's way bigger than just you. And then choose to start seeing the strength. Choose to start seeing the good. And take on that warrior's mindset that I know that if I don't quit, I'm going to win. I'm going to live and I will not die. Choose to have that perspective so that every single moment that you have during the day, because there's always going to be those moments in each day that someone is going to remember about you for the rest of your life or their life. And those are powerful things as educators we get to do that most other professions do not. And you could begin to turn everything that you face into a strength. And so when things hit me today, and things are going to hit you, and when things hit us this year in 23, 24, know before they even start that there's good in it somewhere, that there's lessons in it somewhere, that there's purpose in it somewhere, not just for you, but for other people. And then take on that warrior's mindset and choose to never give up, never quit. That way you're going to win. Guys, I ask you to check me out on social media, The Secret Sauce with Kip Schubert, or you can find me at Secret Sauce EDU on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, just Kip Schubert or The Secret Sauce with Kip Schubert. I would love to come into your school community and share my story and share about how we can turn struggle into strength and so much more about building relationships and school climate and culture. So you can check out my website for that at kipschubert.com. Also, get my book, Struggle to Strength. You can find it on Amazon. You can also get it from my website. If you would like to do a book study with it, I have that as well. So just reach out to me and get in touch with me. And again, our struggles can become our strengths if we choose to be humble and realize that it's way bigger than just us. It's about others. And we choose to say, I get to instead of I have to. And we have that perspective of a warrior's mindset. That way we could begin to go in and see those lessons and those strengths, even during the storm, that we can begin to share and model and relay in small ways and in big ways to others. Thank you guys for attending the workshop. I hope you have a great 23-24 school year. Anything I can do to help you take a struggle and turn it to strength, please just reach out to me. Thank you very much.